Hello, welcome to Montevideo. My name is Ariel Seoane, and I want to thank the Type Directors Club for this opportunity to share some of the typography you can find in Montevideo, in Uruguay. We are a small country in South America, and here we are in Buena Letra. This is a project of my wife and I. We have a small letterpress workshop, printing shop, where we do workshops and we print some art pieces, and we collect and restore all typography. We have a collection of about 5,000 pieces of wood type and several hundred thousand of metal type pieces. And here we do letterpress workshops, wood cutting workshops, calligraphy, cyanotype, all traditional antique graphic arts techniques. And here we are the main room in the shop. This is La Minerva. This is the platen press from around 1900, and this is one of the presses, the main and the most cherished one. We have some proof presses, and I want to start the travel around Montevideo and the typography, showing some of our favorite pieces of wood type in our collection. And here I printed some sample of a few of the favorite fonts we have, and you can see them here. Here we start with a font or a set of fonts in two different sizes from De Bernis in Paris. This font is called Caractères Fantasques Large. It's from the late 1800s, and the design is by Pierre de Rougère, a famous woodcutter and type designer from the time. This is probably the oldest sample of type we have in the shop, in the collection. These are cut by hand. I don't know if the camera shows the detail, but this is not machine cut. This is hand cut, and it's a Gothic Tuscan, probably from the mid 1800s. The next sample is Serie E from Jacobian Fields from Grenoble, and this is interesting because it combines the serif typical of a Garaland face with the heavy horizontal strokes of the Egyptians of the late 1800s. You can see here the heavy horizontal serifs along horizontal strokes along the delicate curved serifs. And finally, another font that we haven't yet identified. This is probably from the early 1900s or late 1800s. It's similar to Cyclopéen from Peignon from 1910, but this one is a serif font. If you compare them, most of the letters are pretty similar in structure, but this one is serifed instead of a sans serif. Okay, so for the second part of the tour, we start at the Centro Gallego, and this is a building from 1923. I selected it because it shows 3 of the main categories that we will be looking today. It has sculpted and carved text in the facade. It has decorated doors, and it has a plaque. Let's start with the plaques. Sometimes you will find a marble plaque on the doorway, but usually it's metal, it's either brass or bronze, sometimes in iron, but usually it's brass or bronze is the most common. We have some with beautiful decoration, like this one from the Palacio Salvo. You can see all different styles of lettering, from modern to Victorian, Gothic at times, all types of lettering. And this one in particular I want to look for a minute because we will find it again. This is from the mid-40s or thereabout. And the doors, you can see usually monograms, sometimes word, bronze, or more often forged iron, like this one, or this, very different styles, many in Art Nouveau and Art Deco styles. And this particular one is a beautiful carved wood on the door itself with a JC monogram. And the carved and sculpted facades, we can start in the 1800s. This is one of the oldest buildings that show a sort of plaque with the year of inauguration. It has 2 different dates because the building was originally built in 1910 by Tomás Toribio, and this is well before Uruguay was an independent country. And this was for a jail. And in 1929, right before Uruguay signed their first constitution, the son of Tomás Toribio, José Toribio, was assigned the task of expanding the building to host some public offices and in particular the newly created parliament. The works extended several decades and the building was finally finalized in 1868, as you can see here. Hospital de Caridad from 1825 has some beautiful monogram on the medallion with the H and C from Hospital de Caridad. This one is from 1874 from the crypt of El Señor de la Paciencia and has an interesting shape for the uppercase Q. You can see on the first line, the second word, where it says, "Tu que pasas, mírame," and the Q looks like a mirrored letter P. We have some other buildings from the late 1800s, and then we go into the early 1900s. This is from Trabucati and Company, a hardware store and importer, and behind that beautiful alligator, you can see the T and C from Trabucati and Company. And this is the Estación Central, or the streetcars central station. Was managed by the Sociedad Comercial de Montevideo, and on the right, on the medallion, you can see the SCM monogram. the gas company, the Java, the first high school in Montevideo from 1911. And it has panels with the names of different important people in the history of science and literature and culture in general. Some other interesting and beautiful examples of lettering on the facades on the 1920s. We have this one in particular I like very much, very Art Deco, and it's from the Ateneo Popular, a cultural center run by the workers of the clothing industry. El Día was one of the main newspapers in the early 1900s, founded by José Valle Ordóñez, one of the presidents of Uruguay, and one of the people that shaped what the Uruguay idiosyncrasy is even today. The Cuerpo de Bomberos, the firefighter quarters. This one is interesting because they didn't disturb the vertical lines in the facade, so they carved the words just around the lines, and that disturbed the Minerva on the right. You can see the pairing between the B and the A is not particularly happy. We have many examples from the 30s and 40s. This one from the 40s is particularly nice, in my opinion. And then we go into the 50s. With this is an older building from the late 1800s, but it was repurposed, and the lettering is from that time in the mid-50s. And with this, we go into the metal lettering of facades. From the 1800s, we can find some examples, not particularly noticeable, but in the 1900s, we begin finding some more interesting examples. This used to be a photography and an optics laboratory, and nowadays hosts a library, a bookshop, and they kept, fortunately, they kept the original lettering. And many buildings have this metal lettering, some in forged metal, some in molded metal. And by the 40s, it becomes more standardized. It usually is just letters that you bought and placed, not something that you custom made for the building. So we begin to see more repetition in style, and here you can see the lettering style that I mentioned earlier when we saw the plaques. And this is what you will see in most of the buildings in the 40s and 50s. The signatures from the architects and contractors are much more varied, and these remain even today. Quite often you can find the names of the architects and the constructors on the facades, and the styles vary widely. Even the same people from one year to another might change the style of the letter. And to close the tour, we will see some signs, some hand-painted signs, mostly ghost signs nowadays, although some buildings still use their old hand-painted signs from way ago. And we have also some volumetric
lettering, some with neon, some still working and preserved, some more or less abandoned, but many variation on those. And with this, we end the tour, and I want to thank you for your time and interest. I want to thank again the Art Directors Club for the invitation, and if you're interested in my work or the work we do at Buena Letra shop, you can find us on Instagram. Thank you.